We have generated 90% of the world's total data in just the last 2 years. Yet, despite this mountain of information, we struggle with widespread misinformation and massive systemic errors. This points to the dilemma of knowing. To define a concept is to limit it. While definitions provide clarity, they also restrict our imagination and narrow the field of what we consider possible. We rely on known knowns, the established facts and routines forming the bedrock of our expertise. This expertise provides a sense of predictability, making us feel in control of our environment. History shows that even our most stable frameworks have limits. Newtonian physics offered a complete explanation of the physical world for centuries, until Albert Einstein demonstrated that it failed to account for reality at the scale of the cosmos. The Titanic serves as a reminder of what happens when we lean too heavily on established mastery. The builders trusted their engineering so implicitly that they overlooked the variables they had yet to encounter. In a world defined by complexity and rapid change, relying solely on what we already know creates a significant vulnerability. We need a way to map the terrain we haven't yet mastered. This brings us to the knowledge matrix, a 2x2 grid used to map the boundaries of our own awareness. The top left quadrant holds our known knowns. These are the skills and facts we use with automaticity and confidence. Strategic advantage, however, lives in the other 3 boxes. These are the spaces where we acknowledge and investigate what we don't understand. Navigating modern complexity requires us to move beyond simply collecting facts and instead develop the skill to move through these different domains of the unknown. We begin with the known unknowns. This is the realm of conscious gaps, where we can clearly define the information we are missing. During the Apollo 13 mission, the crew and ground control faced a sudden oxygen tank explosion. They didn't have a pre-written plan for this specific failure, but they knew exactly which variables they had to solve for. They improvised by systematically mapping their immediate gaps. They calculated limited power reserves, rising carbon dioxide levels, and trajectory adjustments. By treating these unknowns as a list of specific technical problems, they turned a crisis into a series of engineering tasks. When we identify the specific shape of our ignorance, uncertainty transforms from an overwhelming threat into a solvable puzzle. The third quadrant represents our unknown knowns. These are the unexamined biases and silent assumptions that guide our behavior without our conscious permission. In the mid-19th century, Ignaz Semmelweis discovered that doctors could save lives simply by washing their hands between patients. The medical establishment ignored his evidence for decades. Their professional identity was built on the assumption that a physician's hands were inherently clean. This unexamined belief made it impossible for them to accept a truth that contradicted their self-image. We can track this through the Johari window. Ego and cultural conditioning can cause our internal blind spots to expand, allowing our unconscious habits to hide our own behaviors from us. Our path to discovery is often blocked not by a lack of data, but by the invisible filters we use to interpret that data. The final frontier is the realm of unknown unknowns. These are the events that our current mental models fail to even imagine. The COVID-19 pandemic arrived as a shock to the global system. It emerged from outside our collective awareness, exposing vulnerabilities in healthcare and trade that we hadn't previously considered. We cannot generate specific answers for threats that we haven't yet conceived. Surviving this quadrant requires us to prioritize resilience over prediction, building systems that are flexible enough to adapt when the unexpected occurs. How do we operate effectively when our map of reality no longer fits the terrain? We navigate this by practicing metacognition, the act of thinking about our own thinking. This allows us to observe our internal filters and notice when our cognitive schemas have become too rigid. We can surface our blind spots by seeking out diverse perspectives and using Socratic questioning to investigate why we hold certain beliefs as self-evident. Success in a complex world comes from maintaining mental agility across all 4 quadrants, rather than trying to force every new observation into the box of what we already know. The beliefs and frameworks that provided success yesterday can easily become the rigid boundaries that limit us tomorrow. Defining a concept gives us a tool, but acknowledging what remains unknown gives us the room to grow. This brings us back to the core of wisdom described by Socrates, the understanding that our greatest asset is a clear awareness of our own ignorance.